What's up, everybody? It is January 31st, 2026. Big shocker, it's already the end of January. So anyways, happy Saturday, folks. In today's video, we're going to be diving into the upcoming weather patterns to see what the weather has in store for us. Looking at our 2-meter temperature anomaly in Fahrenheit. Without even scrolling out into the future, this is the date up in the top right corner, temperature bar down here. We can see this is January 31st, which is today. Folks, out in the east, that includes Ohio Valley. The Ohio Valley is going to be experiencing the most brutal cold, but we also have a strong shot of Arctic air reaching Texas right there. That's starting to peek through. A lot of Oklahoma and a lot of Nebraska is also going to get some Arctic shots. As we scroll on, we can see this actually So, as of just right now, you can see it's very intensified right here. As we scroll on, it does weaken and move south, even into Florida. There's actually freeze watches. Wow. I just want to acknowledge how cold it's going to get down there. This is very strong, and this is on February 1st. And you'll see why there's freeze watches there at the end of this video. So make sure to stick around until the end. And then we see another potentially cold shot. It's a different brand. It's a little more mild. And then speaking of mild, look what's happening out west. Jeez, this is crazy. This Arctic air does turn Arctic for a brief second and then kind of fluctuates. This is not as widespread. We have some disgusting warm air out west, especially over Canada. Wow, this is crazy. And then it gets pretty warm out in the east. Well, in the Sierra Nevada mountains, it gets pretty cold. Unless you're in, up north. In Boise, Idaho, Boise on February 11th might get pretty cold. We've got even more. Oh, look, this is February 13th. Towards the end of our run, look what's happening up here. We can see some Arctic air. This is going to feed into us. Looks like it might go into the west. It's looking west. And you'll see why in a minute. So, like I said, there's more things that you're going to want to see, so make sure to stick around. Looking at our 2-meter temperature in Fahrenheit, we could see, as of right now, it's actually pretty warm west of the Rockies. East of the Rockies, it's chilly. Definitely very cold on. As we scroll on, it actually gets surprisingly warm, even up into Oregon and Washington, where it should be colder. That might even be reaching 60 degrees, so it might be actually pretty comfortable to hang out outside. So if you live in Washington or Oregon, which I'm sure at least maybe a fraction of you guys do, let me go back. Let me see. It would be on, let's see here, on January, actually, this is later today, actually. Later today, if you're watching this, it might be a good day to get some projects done, because it might get pretty warm, if you can see those yellows. Whether or not you're doing projects, wow, it also gets really warm. Wow, that might even be approaching 70. On February 3rd, also a good day to get some projects done. A vast majority of California, Oregon, and Washington, and also Texas and Arizona are going to get some warm shots. So it might be a good day to start working on something. Also, another shot of warmth, even in the higher elevations. Wow, that might be approaching 70 here in the Olympics, and also parts of Oregon. Cools down, kind of heats up. Nothing too crazy just yet. It does get pretty cold here as we approach the 11th of February. Not the craziest cold. It does cool back down. It's going to be a shocker, especially since we just saw 70. So yeah, and then we might have some colder air potentially coming down here. And also I'm starting to see some pinks up here, so that might be -40, -50. So get ready for that. Have a backup heating system. Stay warm. Make sure you're wearing appropriate clothing for this. You could get frostbite in as short of 10 to 20 minutes. So this is a real hazard, especially up here in Canada. And even here in the great state of Maine, the Northeast, it's going to be maybe 20 degrees. You can still get frostbite. Yes, it won't happen super fast, but it's going to be cold. So dress appropriately and have a backup heating source if necessary. Looking at our 500 millibar height dam in Anomaly M, we can see this ridge of high pressure over the west has been stubborn the entire winter for like the past 3 months. It's crazy. People out west are really annoyed, and honestly, I don't blame you. I'm one of them. Out east, there's troughs over the east, and so troughs are low pressure. So we'll get ready for that. But as we scroll on, we can see this trough here try to take a swing at us, but doesn't. It tries to, if it did hit, it would hit Oregon and Washington. Does very mildly impact parts of British Columbia, and then it just dies. And then we have a massive trough out over the Gulf of Alaska that does take a little swing at parts of Alaska there, and it eventually goes south, dissipates a lot. We've got another ridge of high pressure centered on the west coast, but that decides to dissipate and move eastward pretty quickly, and then dissipates again and moves on south. We've got some troughing going on here over the Pacific Northwest, so I'm talking about far northern California, pretty much all of Oregon, all of Washington, and northern Idaho, and northwestern Montana is going to be affected. Oh, not to mention a lot of Alberta, Canada, and British Columbia, Canada. Alaska also going to be dealing with some troughing. It's not the biggest troughing unless you're up here in the northern part of it. This troughing happening right here is nothing severe, but it will get, because I looked at these models beforehand. That trough kind of takes a swing at us, and as we reach the end of our run, watch this. Ooh, that is a dead-eye center. Wow. Look at this massive trough. Now, this is getting into the more moderate or severe troughing. So, if you're a snow lover out in the West Coast, I think your time has finally come. So, we want this. So, this is all of the West Coast, not just the Pacific Northwest. Looking at our 168-hour precipitation total in inches, and just so y'all know, 168 hours is the equivalent to 1 week, 7 days. Out in the Pacific Northwest, where they average tons of precipitation because they're in the blunt of atmospheric rivers. So this is no shocker. Actually, it might be a little bit below average for the Cascades and Seattle area. There's tons of precipitation for the Atlantic Ocean. It's just skimming maybe parts of the Washington, D.C. here, but the vast majority of it is over the water, so nothing to be concerned about. Although you should get maybe concerned a little bit. I wouldn't say it's anything huge, but there could be some heavy precipitation in the mountains of the Cascades, so I don't know. I've heard of what we've got: Seattle, Leavenworth, Wenatchee, Cle Elum, and whatever other mountainous towns are in Washington. Might be impacted, and also Oregon and Northern California, and also here by LA could be impacted with some heavy precipitation. If you're in the Olympics or the Cascades, you're probably going to be affected the most. You could see up to 6 inches of rain, so don't think it's going to be anything crazy like when we saw those atmospheric rivers hitting in early December. If you remember that, if you live in the Pacific Northwest, you probably remember that as the Great Flood, which it was crazy. This could be, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be anything like that, but it might be upwards of an inch. Looking at our wind, this is the accumulative wind gust. Wow. Okay, this is several hundred miles an hour. Out just skimming right here. I would say you're not in much danger if you do live here. If you're like on the coast, maybe 75 mile an hour winds. If you're further inland, it's gonna dissipate a lot. Maybe only 68. So you're not in much danger if you're over here. This is mainly an oceanic event. However, if you are in this streak, let's go to Montana real quick. Let's go to the states. Montana. Where are you? There we are. Montana. Here we are. There's some pretty high winds. If we go down here into what I believe to be is Wyoming, there could be some winds. Here's the bar. It should show it. You can see the 68 to 92 mile an hour range is perfectly fit for right here. So there could be some high winds. Get ready for this. This is going to be more widespread up here. Possibly widespread power outages may result up to 75 mile an hour winds. So it could get pretty crazy up there. So get ready for that. Let's look at our snow. This is not the extended yet, but we will get to that. This is the snow depth in inches. This is today. Cascades, there are some. So if you live in the Cascades, Washington, and British Columbia, you're probably going to get more of it there. Not much for Oregon, unless you're in a small isolated area. Tons of snow for Sierra Nevadas in California and Nevada. We've got some pretty more widespread, but a little bit less unless you live by Buffalo. The general Great Lakes region is going to get pretty walloped, especially with those lake effect machines turned on. Finally, the time you have all been waiting for, the extended forecast. Looking at our 32-day snow 10-to-1 ratio in inches, this is valid on March 17th, 2026. You can see there's absolutely tons of snow for the mountains out west. A little bit less snow for the regions out in the northeast. But we can go here. There we go, 46 day. There. Now there's tons of snow there and even more snow out west. So this is going to be crazy. Snow might even be going as far south as Georgia. So that's going to be crazy. There is definitely going to be some East Coast storm event, probably. And also tons of snow with those lake effect machines turned on. So this is going to be really crazy. Looking at our control model, 32 days. Let's just skip ahead to the 46th day. Our control model did downgrade a little bit for the mountains out west, but however, it upgraded a lot if you live in the northeast. That is upwards of 48 inches for sure. So this is crazy amount of snow. If you plan on shoveling the snow, careful. Take breaks, drink water. Don't get frostbite. Don't push yourself. It's a lot of snow to shovel. If you have a snowblower, make sure you get it serviced and ready to go, because this is not going to be mild. This is going to be crazy. Looking at our hazards. Now, the way that Pivotal Weather put this together isn't the best, so I can't fit all of it in frame at once, but these grays in California and Washington are fog advisories, and I can show you that down here. So the flood warnings are bright green, dark green is coastal flood warning, pink is winter storm warning, this bluish color is a winter storm watch, this purple is a winter weather advisory, and this dark purple stuff, like right here, is a freeze warning. This gray is dense fog advisory, this kind of yellowish is a high wind warning, and this is a wind advisory. Now looking at this, you can see there's some wind advisories or warnings or watches up here. Same thing down here. There's a little speck of green. That's bright green, so that's a flood warning. You can see this does affect all of Washington, D.C. as well. It's just going out of range of my screenshot. Let me see if I can fit it all. Yes, all right, I fitted it all for a brief second. It is crazy because there is actually freeze watches in Florida. That is absurd. If we look up here, there is also some winter weather advisories. Looking at let's go to the CPC outlooks. Again, I'm sorry I can't fit all this in frame. The way that Pivotal Weather designed this is not the best, so I apologize for any inconveniences that this may cause. This is our 6 to 10 day temperature probability outlook. This is the 6 to 10 days, so it's short to medium range. The west, very warm, very warm. If we go eastwards, though, it gets very cold. Even down in Florida, man, what the heck? Miami is going to be a 90 to 100% chance of cold weather. That is nutty. Looking at our 8 to 14 day, yes, it does get milder as far as our extreme heat. It gets closer to cold, so it might be a little colder especially. East is still going to be having tons of cold air. So until this evening, I am going to be heading out. So make sure to like and subscribe so we can hit our goal of 20 subscribers. Right now, we have about 17 subscribers, so we only have 3 subscribers to go until we hit our goal. So if you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe and share this video with friends and family. I will see you guys this afternoon.